Recently, Conspiracy Catz was on a Marvel Girls channel to debate Ray Comfort on the topic of evolution versus creationism. Ray Comfort was on a Marvel Girls channel to preach and promote himself. Almost immediately, Ray started saying things that were demonstrably false and some I'd wager were blatant lies. I was in the chat and decided to keep count just to show how wrong he was. But boy, I was not ready for the waterfall of sewage runoff that followed. I decided to put all of Ray's wrongs into a neat little response video, and I'm going to keep track of them with these. Let's get started.
I believe evolution isn't scientific, it's unproven and unprovable.
Except for all of this.
I don't believe that we have a common ancestor with primates, mainly because I see no evidence that can't be received as evidence. It has to be received by blind faith.
I don't need faith to look at the fossil record and see changes over time. Just eyes and a functioning brain.
An evolutionist believes man began evolving 63 million years ago.
Evolutionists don't believe anything. They look at the evidence and accept what it shows them.
The CDC said in June of this year in the United States, 22 million people seriously considered suicide. And so I believe one of the reasons is because Darwinian evolution leaves humanity without hope in their death and no reason to exist.
Citation fucking needed. This is just disrespectful to people dealing with depression and mental health issues. The arrogance to suggest that your interpretation of a concept you don't understand is the reason others consider suicide is projection at best and blatant disregard for mental health at worst.
Do you know how many cells make up your body, Al? Something like 70 trillion last time I counted. Do you know how many atoms are in each cell? About 50 trillion last time they counted.
It's 100 trillion. You're off by half.
And there's never been an atheist society.
Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism, Taoism. They all have atheist sects and branches, and they've been around for thousands of years.
It's just a recent phenomenon where people have embraced the foolishness of nothing creating everything.
Atheists don't believe that.
A carbon dating's not trustworthy. It comes back to a blind faith in a dating system.
Ray, you need to look up what blind faith means. I'm not an expert on radiometric dating, but it takes 5 minutes on Google to understand how it works and why it is trustworthy.
Evolution hasn't got a clue why we have male and female or why we have reproductive organs that can reproduce of their own kind.
Yes, it does. Sexual reproduction increases gene variation. While we can't pinpoint the first organism to use sexual reproduction or how it evolved, we know exactly why it evolved and, by extension, why there are male and female reproductive organs.
Do you accept or concede or whatever that the scientific evidence does not agree?
No, not at all.
Scientific evidence does not agree with creationism. I don't even need a citation for that one. The Bible is a citation for it.
Because I don't believe evolution is scientific. It hides behind the skirts of science.
First of all, that's just a nonsense statement. Second, evolution doesn't hide behind the skirts. Evolution is one of the skirts. And when you look behind it, bad metaphor, you see a mountain of evidence.
The reason people embrace it and love it so much is because it gives them no moral responsibility.
Evolution makes no claims to morality. It just describes reality. In contrast, the Bible has some hideous things in it and approves of some of the worst, most barbaric things one could think of. How can you get morality from a book like that?
Hey, when did you last look at pornography?
What the hell does that matter, Ray?
When a question is repeated, like what you just did, that's when we formulate a lie.
Got a reference to a psychology textbook for that one?
Look, you've got a conscience. You know that the reason you love evolution is because it means you can do what you want to do morally.
I'll count this again because he's making a claim about cats specifically here.
Seismologists, geologists, geneticists, when they're looking at these sites, nobody's coming to the conclusion that since that pottery was made 20,000 years ago, there's been a massive flood.
Well, you said nobody has said that, and I would like to know how you know that. That means you're omniscient. That means you know everybody and everything that's been said.
You know what he meant. You're being intellectually dishonest and you're dodging his point.
All those independent scientists believe the earth was flat years ago.
No consensus of scientists has ever claimed that the earth was flat. You know that. You're being intellectually dishonest again.
Darwinian evolution is not scientific.
You have no clue how science works.
There's no scientific basis for it.
What Professor Dave said.
It cannot be observed.
Wrong.
It cannot be tested.
Wrong.
It must be received by blind faith.
Wrong.
Scientific and evolution. That's an oxymoron.
Your name is an oxymoron because you're a ray of discomfort. Do you get it?
When we say God created evolution, I believe that. That's called idolatry. It's breaking the first and the second of the 10 Commandments and making up a non-existent God to suit ourselves.
I don't want to get into the actual religion or philosophy, but that's literally wrong. Saying God created something is not making up a different God.
In the beginning, God created the male and female. I believe that with all my heart, and I see evidence that can be proven and tested.
Citation needed, because you definitely don't see provable, testable evidence of that.
Look, all you have to do is ask an evolutionist, how did the eye evolve and why didn't it work? For how long did it take before it began to work? How did the first primate that stood up without evolved eyes find a mate who didn't have evolved eyes? Where did the esophagus come from? Without an esophagus, you can't swallow, you can't live. When the lungs weren't evolved, how did they work? How did they get oxygen into the blood and the veins when the veins hadn't evolved and the heart hadn't evolved? How did it pump blood and why did it pump blood when it wasn't evolved and the blood wasn't evolved and the blood vessels weren't evolved?
That was a big bowl of word salad with a side of piss dressing. And it shows you either know absolutely nothing about evolution, or you know that everything you just said was wrong, and you're saying it anyway to cast doubt on evolution. I wonder which one it is.
And the word science just means knowledge.
You know damn well science means more than just knowledge. Stop lying, Ray.
Only way you can reconcile it is to say that everything happened fully formed.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
I'm resting on something that's common sense and scientific that can be observed.
Citation needed. The Bible does not hold up to scientific scrutiny, and nothing about creationism can be observed.
Nothing is evolving.
Do I need to show you these again?
Evolution is not scientific.
Again?
Darwin himself said, I think I have invented a fantasy. He used that word.
Out of context, quote mining bullshit. Here's the quote in context. Darwin knew it wasn't fantasy. You lying con man.
That's why evolution should be discarded, because it doesn't pass the scientific method. It cannot be observed and it cannot be tested.
Once more for the cheap seats.
Hundreds of millions of individuals independently have found that the Bible is true.
No, they haven't. They have found that they believe it to be true without any evidence. That's what faith is.
It's not scientific evidence. It comes back to blind faith.
You know, I think you know that's not true, and you just keep saying it, hoping people will believe you and buy your books.
You've got blind faith, Al. You believe anything you're told. It's the chart, you believe it. If it comes in a textbook, you believe it. You don't know these scientists. You just believe what they're telling you.
Now, I personally know that's not true because Catz and PhD Tony are in one of my D&D groups together.
You look at the Gospels contradict each other.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Can you look me eye and tell me they all give exactly the same version of events?
Yeah, from 4 different perspectives.
Well, now you just sound like a flat earther. And that's exactly what Catz was thinking.
You can see different perspectives of the assassination of President Kennedy. And you can say there was 1 bullet, there was 2.
There were 3 bullets, Ray. I think the conspiracy theory you're looking for is whether there was 1 shooter or 2. There was 1.
Plenty of scientists who give peer review on creationism.
Citation needed.
You don't hear of it because of the moral responsibility that comes with it.
That's not something you can claim scientifically, Ray. Specifically because you have no evidence, Ray. You sure are preoccupied with moral responsibility, Ray. Is there something you need to tell us, Ray?
Go through Ken Ham's Ark and look at all the science they've got.
You're joking, right?
Just go to Answers in Genesis website. They have legitimate scientists there who are theists and who believe in creationism.
Well, that's an unbiased source, isn't it?
This has never been about is there an existence of God or not?
Yeah, it's about idolatry, making up a false god.
Oh, fuck you, Ray.
If evolution can't be proven, does that mean that all scientists are actually wrong and stupid? Please, yes or no?
Yes.
Oh, really? You know all scientists are wrong? You must be omniscient.
Ray, do you believe that the devil is evil and against God? Because if so, why is the devil doing God's work by punishing sinners?
I don't understand that question. It doesn't kind of make sense.
Bullshit. You understand it perfectly. You just don't want to answer it. Again, you're being dishonest.
The evolutionists hide behind the skirt of genuine science.
Still nonsense and still wrong.
And say that if you're not a believer in the fairy tale of evolution, then you're not scientific.
Find me one.
That's a straw man.
You don't know what a straw man is.
I'm talking about the fairy tale of evolution. That's not true science. It's not scientific.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
What I also don't think is that you have a solid understanding of the science of evolution, radiometric dating, geology. So I
There
don't
goes
think
the oxymoron again, Al.
Science of evolution is not an oxymoron. I know you know that. I know you're being intellectually dishonest to push your agenda.
I'm not out there saying that anthropomorphism isn't, isn't real.
Yes, you are.
Show me when and where he said that. I'll wait.
Evolution versus God is an award-winning video.
I'm going to count this one because I checked website after website and I could not find a single reference to an award for this video. And that includes Ray's own website.
I have studied evolution probably more than you have for the last 30 years.
That is a lie. If you studied evolution at all, then you would know that it is scientific, it is observable, and it is testable. That's 52 things Ray said that were wrong. Now I want to point out that Ray did not come for a debate. And that's not my opinion. That's not a criticism. That's a fact. At just 23 and a half minutes in, he said this.
Take as long as you want, because I'm kind of finished.
And less than an hour into the whole thing, this exchange about evolution happened.
What's your evidence that that's wrong?
The words of Jesus, where he said, in the beginning, God created the male and female. I don't need to argue about it anymore.
Because you only came to preach your gospel, which you did for 5 minutes straight when given time to respond to Catz, mention your books, and plug your YouTube channel.
Which is 130 million views.
And when your time to grandstand was over, you stopped paying attention and stared down at whatever you were doing on your desk until a super chat was directed your way. Speaking of super chats, PhD Tony summarized your entire presence in this debate with one beautiful super chat.
Ray, you're willing to say things that are not true in order to achieve your goals, and you have the temerity to accuse atheists of immorality. Oh, God.
First of all, a Marvel girl, you did a great job moderating. Everyone stumbles over their words every now and then. You're good. Second of all, yeah, as I pointed out, painfully so, that's exactly what Ray did in this debate. And he knows it. He knows exactly what he's doing. He says exactly what he needs to say to please his followers so he can get his views, sell his books, and sell his DVDs. Ray Comfort is a liar and a con man. I'm done.